What's the number one most difficult foreign language to learn according to the Google search return? What's the most fundamental difference between this particular language and other languages? So the answer is unanimously Chinese. Although it's ranked as the most difficult language to learn, the return on investment and effort is non-comparable as well, including your ability to communicate to 1.2 billion people, roughly around 16% of the world's population, and China being the second largest economy in the world next to the US. To the second question, Chinese is the only ancient logographic language still in use today, from which both Japanese and Korean writing system heavily borrowed. Given this fact, wouldn't it make sense to learn Chinese according to the very fundamental nature of this language? That's how I started to teach my own kids Chinese at home. It started like this.
It all started on one day with one home lesson. Determined to make a good first impression on my kids of their heritage language, I conceived some tactful and creative ways. So I thought, for those of you running a bilingual family like me, you know what I'm talking about. It does take some creativity to motivate our kids to learn that second language, doesn't it? So this is our first lesson. I said to Joseph and Jonathan, Chinese characters are super easy and fun as they're sketch drawings of real-world objects. Shall we draw together? 1 represented by 1 line, 2 represented by 2 lines, 3 lines. Person, look like person standing nice and tall on 2 feet. Mouth, take the shape of wide open mouth. Mountain resemble the shape of 3 picked mountains. So simple and straightforward, isn't it? Now, another cool thing about the Chinese character is they can all be pronounced with just 1 syllable with no exception. Yay, the kids are primed and pumped up, ready for pronunciation drill. And our first lesson was as smooth as a sailing boat. Until the second time. Then my 6-year-old asked me, how come 4 is not 4 lines, 5 is not 5 lines, 6 is not 6 lines, why I look like this? This is where it gets difficult. You see, with this cute drawing method, I couldn't even get my son to write a simple character for I. Another mom told me, my 7-year-old daughter wrote herself to tears when practicing the character for putting on hat. It just doesn't make sense to her. Yet, we humans are essentially sense-making animals. When things aren't making sense to us, our brains treat them as random facts, which are processed by hard memorization, which is the most inefficient form of human cognition, vulnerable to the passing of time, a natural phenomenon we call forgetting. There ought to be a better way.
So I put on my researcher's hat. My first task is to get some facts straight.
The fact is, only 10% of modern-day Chinese characters known as pictograms can be drawn in this way. The remaining 90% are ideograms and compound characters that are just too complex or too abstract to be drawn out. How do you draw I or he or she?
But how do you tackle the remaining 90% compound characters as simple as I, he, or she? I continued with my search and discovered something I never knew about my own mother tongue.
My mumsy hat wasn't sufficient enough, so I put out my old hat of linguistics and another for artificial intelligence and another for user experience design. Then I grabbed my trusty researcher's headlight, ran down the rabbit hole, went all the way to the origin of the Chinese language, my own mother tongue I grew up speaking and using every day, yet totally unaware of its ingenuity and beauty. There, I got a glimpse of the genesis of the Chinese language, an ancient script known as the Oracle Bone Script. The world's only ancient script still living today. It is the jewel that crowns China's civilization of 5,000 years, credited with unifying the Middle Kingdom for more than 2,000 years. There, I found a glimmering torch, yet bright enough to shed light onto the path leading to new discoveries that would be instrumental to an organic way to learn Chinese that makes sense to people of all ages.